Yesterday, the government tabled Bill C-53, the Life Means Life Act. This bill arguably creates some provisions in it that are going to make it very difficult politically for members of Parliament, myself included, to vote against. However, when one assesses the provisions of the bill carefully, it becomes clear very quickly how hollow this bill actually is. For example, we already have life sentencing in Canada. Anybody convicted of first or second degree murder is automatically sentenced for life. If you're sentenced for first degree murder, it's life without parole for 25 years. If it's second degree murder, it's life without eligibility for parole after 10 years or some greater number depending on the judge. But the point is it's a life sentence. Parole after 25 years, 10 years, whatever number, is discretionary in the hands of the parole board. And even if it's granted, it's still a life sentence, which means that that individual will be subject to some conditions and restrictions on their liberty based on risk assessment and the discretion of the parole board. If you are convicted of murder, you are serving a sentence for life, period. Now, what this bill purports to do means that life will mean life in so much as a person will have no ability to apply for parole ever. And that if you're convicted of a heinous crime, which is defined as murder of a police officer or a prison guard, or as a result of a kidnapping or aggravated sexual assault, you simply will spend the rest of your natural life in prison. Now, this creates a lot of problems because it'll make our prisons less safe, as prisoners have no incentive to behave properly if all hope of ever being released on parole is reduced. And secondly, there is significant cost to keeping people in prisons, especially in the latter years of their life. If you're in your 80s and you are in a geriatric state, you're certainly of no potential harm to anybody. You're completely harmless. However, if this bill becomes law, you will spend the rest of your natural life in a geriatric ward in a prison at great public expense, as opposed to in a geriatric or palliative facility outside. The other real problem with this bill is it's unlikely to ever become law. We're now in mid-March. Parliament will sit until mid-June. We still have to pass a budget. C-51, the Anti-Terrorism Act, is taking up a lot of Parliament's and parliamentary committee time. This bill is unlikely to make it through all three stages and the Senate in the time that this Parliament has left. So what that means to me is it's purely a political statement. The government wants to stand up and say, yes, we are tough on crime, we are tough on heinous murderers, we're going to lock them up for the rest of their lives, when they know full well that this bill is unlikely to pass during this parliamentary mandate. And when asked during the press conference announcing this legislation, the Prime Minister admitted that there will be no additional resources given to Corrections Canada because of the very few incarcerants that would be affected by this. Thankfully, there just aren't that many heinous criminals in Canada. So the Prime Minister knows full well that this is going to affect virtually no one, that the parole board already has the teeth to keep individuals like Robert Pickton and Paul Bernardo behind bars for the rest of their lives. This bill is purely a political statement in the months leading up to an election. This bill, C-53, the Life Means Life Act, is certainly and without question a solution in search of a problem.